All right, so we've seen zlib and gzip in action. It's great to compress some data, but how do you go about making something a little more complex, like a tar file or a zip file? Go to pub.dartlang.org and look up archive. As you can see, it provides encoders and decoders for various archive and compression formats, such as zip, tar, bzip2, gzip, and zlib. Go ahead and click on it, and you get a little more detailed explanation here and a little bit of an example code. Let's go ahead and look at the installation, and it's pretty straightforward. We just grab this, and let's flip back into our project here. We need to install this, so let's open the pubspec.yaml. I want our dependencies, I want the path, and let's put that in there. Please note, some versions of this IDE will pop up and you can just click over here. Mine, however, is not doing that because, well, it's just going to be a pain. So we're going to go to Show in Files, and here's our files. From here, we want to open a command prompt in that directory. The directions for installation are pretty straightforward. You can do pub-get, or if you're using Flutter, Flutter packages get. I'm using Flutter, so I'm going to use the Flutter packages get. If you're wondering what the difference between the two is, it's very simple. Flutter includes Dart, so I installed the Flutter SDK because, well, I'm going to be building Flutter tutorials. If you don't know what Flutter is a mobile development framework developed on Dart. All right, so as you can see, running Flutter packages get, and it executed very quickly because I already had it installed in the repository. Yours may take a few seconds longer. Let's go ahead and close that, and close that. Now we can actually include some things here. Let's say import Dart.io, and then let's import Dart convert, and let's import the packages. So we're going to import package, and we're going to say archive, and we want the archive.dart, and let's import the path here. Import package, and we want the path, and we want to do path as p, so we want to just make that a variable right off the bat there. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually make a zip file and show how to zip and unzip things here. So let's say void zip, all right, so from here, what we need to do is actually make another function called unzip. Now we can begin filling these out. First thing we're going to do is actually fill in the compression code. We're going to say archive. We're going to make a new archive here. Now in the archive, we want to get some files. So we're going to say files.forEach. IntelliSense died on me. Why is that not working here? Oh, that's why. There we go. So IntelliSense didn't die, I just fat fingered it. All right, so files for each, and then for each string in the list, let's go ahead and do this. What we want to do is add each file. So we're going to say file Now that we've got our file, we want to say archive file. And from here, we want to add a few things in. So we're going to say p.basename. P is part of the path, so we're going to say base name to the path. And then we want to do the file size here. So we're going to say file.length_sync. And then the content, we're going to say file.readAsByteSync. So what this does here is it makes a record. An archive file goes into the archive, so we're making a zip record, if you will. It's a bit abstracted because we don't know if we're working with a zip or a tar or whatever. So the archive file has the path, the length in bytes, and then the actual bytes. Sometimes I kind of question some of these design patterns. They could have gotten the length from the actual bytes, but it is what it is. So now we want to actually archive, and then you guessed it, add file. And we're going to add the archive file that we just created. All right. Now that we've got the archive files in there, we need to actually compress this out. So we'll say zip encoder, and we'll say equal new zip encoder. And I should note that there are other encoders and decoders, but we're working specifically with zip. You need to see the developer's website and their notes for the actual instructions on how to do other formats. And then we're going to say file, either a new file, and here we're just going to say the file name here. And then F, and we want to do write as bytes sync. So there are our bytes. Let's say encoder, and we want to do encode, and we want to do the archive. Love how IntelliSense fills most of this in for me. Saves me a lot of time. Print, and then we're just going to say compressed. All right, so there is our code for our compression. Let's actually test this before we get too far into this. That way it makes logical sense. So we're going to make a new list, and we're going to say directory.current.listSync. So we're just going to get the current directory, which is actually our project that we're working on now. And we are going to say for each it's going to give us a file system entity. And we're going to say statsync.type. We want the file system entity type.file because we don't want to copy directories or symbolic links. We just want to do the top level files in this case. We're going to say files.add, and we're going to add the path. So really what we're doing there is we're building a list of files we want to add to the zip file. And then we want to say string zip file equals, and I have got a path in mind. I'm just going to copy and paste that rather than typing all that out. And then we're just going to zip it up. So we're going to say zip, and then we're going to give it the file list, and we're going to say zip file. All right, let's check our path here. As you can see, there are no files here. We're in videos test. Let's go ahead and run this. And you can see compressed. Now suddenly there's a file here. Let's open it up, and sure enough, there's all the code at the top level, all these files. So now we want to actually decompress this out. Let's work on our unzip code. And I'm going to move something around in the background here so I can see what I'm doing. All right, so file. And we want to give that the zip file name. So in this case, the zip. Then we're going to say archive. And in this case, we're going to say zip decoder. Did not like that for some reason. we go. And we're going to say decode bytes. And we're going to say file dot read as bytes sync. All right, let's actually fix that. There we go. So we have our archive equal new zip decoder, decode bytes, and then we're just going to read the contents of the bytes into the decoder. From there, we're going to say archive for each, and we want the archive file. In this case, it's going to just be called archive file. And then we're going to say file we want the archive file name dot name. There we go. And we're going to actually create that. So we're going to say file dot create sync. We want to do recursive true. What this is going to do, it's going to actually create the file for us so we can pump data to it. Recursive is going to say, if it's in a directory that doesn't exist, you want to create the directory, and we just want to say yes. And then file that we want to write as byte sync. We want the archive file dot content. So what we're doing here is we're just saying, write all that out, and then let's actually print this. All right, now we have our unzip function. So what we need to do here is actually, let's make a folder here. Pop this open. Copy that path. And let's say unzip. And we want the zip file, so we're going to say zip file. And then for the path, we'll just give it the path we just copied. So what we're going to do here is we're going to decompress that zip file in there. And let's go ahead and let's just back up and let's just delete this for giggles here. That way we can see the whole thing just work. So it's going to create the zip file and then it's going to decompress it into this folder here. Compressed, decompressed. There's our zip file. There's our decompressed files. So as you can see, working with the archive package is extremely easy and it comes with a lot of different formats. Highly encourage you to read their documentation.